We stand here because we are resolved that the deaths of our young angels, Kaysan and Zaini, will not be in vain. We're in the midst of a historic epidemic of violence in our city. We've seen 104 people killed in our city this year, including 45 who've lost their lives here in the South Ward where we stand today. But while we mourn the lives that have been taken so senselessly, we yet still know there is cause for hope. There is cause for hope first because many of us believe that there are powers bigger than us that bend the universe toward justice. There's also hope because we can overcome these difficulties. Our neighborhoods do not have to be killing fields. We're optimistic because our own history in Newark teaches us that we can do better. We're optimistic also because leaders, residents, and community members in places like East Orange, the Bronx, and Brooklyn have turned war zones that were violently unlivable into safe and secure neighborhoods. They did so by investing in the evidence-based proven programs that focus on prevention, enforcement, and reentry. My faith is rooted not only in the strength of Newark's people and our own collective experience, but my own experience as well as an assistant attorney general, where we were able to reduce violent crime 3 years in a row throughout the state. We're able to double the graduation rate for juveniles convicted of crime, and we're able to reduce the rearrest rate for ex-offenders by almost 30%. So the question here is not what works, but whether we have the courage to do what does. We announced our safety plan in October, and it embodies a set of proven practices that have helped to create safe streets and neighborhoods in communities like Newark throughout the state and throughout the country. Today, we offer 5 steps that the city can take immediately. These are steps that the city can take right now to stem this rising tide of violence and to set the stage for a safer and more prosperous Newark. These steps also either pay for themselves or can be paid for through existing resources or through reallocating money to ensure the safety of our residents. Nothing is more important than our people's safety, and we need to spend our money in a way that reflects that. First and foremost, we need to invest in proven youth development and gang prevention programs. We have the resources right now to open up at least 1,000 additional slots for children who are at risk in proven after-school programs. We can do that right now. We also have the resources to open up 200 slots for the most high-risk young people. These would be kids who are gang involved. These would be kids who have a history and a record of prior criminal activities. And we can invest in proven gang prevention programs to engage those young people right now. Programs like unveil, programs like the incentive mentoring program, programs like cognitive behavioral therapy that have shown themselves to be successful in cities like Newark throughout the country and dealing with kids who are gang involved and who have a record of prior crimes. We can do that right now. Secondly, we need to begin to divert nonviolent offenders away from the criminal justice system. It is very expensive when any person engages and interacts with the criminal justice system. We spend about $30,000 per bed to house a person in jail, $50,000 per bed to house a person in prison facilities. That doesn't even include the cost of police, the cost of bail, the cost of judges, the cost of prosecutors, the cost of public defenders. So we should only use those expensive resources for violent offenders. Nonviolent drug users, nonviolent offenders who may have mental health issues, we can redirect them to community-based programs. There are resources under the Federal Affordable Care Act to pay for this right now. So we can direct these individuals away from the criminal justice system, use resources under the Affordable Care Act that frees up resources not only to invest in proven after-school programs and developmental programs for our kids, but it also frees up resources to really go after violent offenders as well. We can do these things right now. Third, the city right now can launch a real-time intelligence-based crime control center. This would be a center that focuses on real-time, uses forecasting models, predictive analytics, uses crime trend data to really identify where crimes are likely to occur based upon the data and evidence about where crimes are already happening, who is committing crimes, the relationships among people who are involved in criminal activity. We can use empirical data and predictive analytics to forecast where crimes are likely to occur and then deploy our policing resources based on what the data shows about where violent crime is occurring and is likely to occur. We can do this right now. Cities throughout the country have invested in these sort of models, and they've shown themselves to be very effective in reducing violent crime. Again, this is something we can do right now. In partnership with the Real-Time Intelligence-Based Crime Control Center, we can hire 75 additional cops right now. Obviously, people have to go through the academy. It takes a longer period of time to get them through, but we can begin that process right now. And then we can deploy those officers in a preventive proactive, intelligent-based policing way in partnership with our real-time crime control center so that we can really go after those hotspots that are driving crime in our communities, go after these open-air drug markets that are proliferated throughout our city and which are really driving violence in our communities. Fifth, last but not least, we have to have zero tolerance for gun-related offenses. Zero tolerance for guns in the city of Newark. We can do this right now, and when I'm elected mayor, we're going to do it the first day after I raise my hand. Anybody who possesses a legal gun in the city of Newark, you are going to prison, period. Anybody who uses an illegal gun in the city of Newark, you are going to prison, period. No exceptions, no excuses. We have illegal guns that are replete throughout our communities, and they're being used to destroy the lives of young people like Kason and Zayni and so many young people and adults throughout our city. We have to have zero tolerance for guns. It's not accepted in other communities. Under our watch, it will not be accepted here in the city of Newark. These steps will not solve our challenges by themselves overnight. We know ultimately we need all hands on deck. We need our faith-based community. We need our parents. We need our community leaders. We need our businesses. We need our policymakers. Simply put, we need everyone in our village to do their part. But we also know that these 5 steps alone, if executed well and if executed immediately, will stem the rising tide of violence in our city and will lay a foundation that will produce a safer and more prosperous Newark. We can no longer afford the same rhetorical approaches of the past. We are in a state of crisis, and we must now use the most effective and the most proven approaches that have demonstrated themselves to be successful. We also need leadership with the experience and the capacity to implement these approaches. So while today, of course, is a sad and mournful day because we mourn the loss of 2 beautiful young people and more broadly the loss of 104 souls in our city this year, but today is also a hopeful day because we know that if we commit ourselves to the right approaches, we can turn the page on this violence and make our streets and neighborhoods vibrant and livable for our children, for our seniors, and for all of our people. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
Mr. Jeffries, you talk about empirical data and predictive analytics. That's rhetoric that has been employed in this city, if you'll pardon me, for decades. What is it about this plan that's going to make a difference?
Because the difference aren't the words, the difference is the actions. So cities like East Orange, cities like New York, other cities throughout the country have created real-time crime control centers. So it's not about the rhetoric of predictive analytics, it's actually investing in the infrastructure so we can do predictive analytics, so we can do crime trend forecasting, so we can, in a very tangible and data-based way, identify those people who are driving crime. At the end of the day, most of the crime in our city is driven by a relatively small number of people. And we have to have the intelligence, we have to have the information to identify those people and to target them in a very effective way. Other cities are doing this. It's not about the words. Other cities are doing this, and the city of Newark can do it as well, and we will do it with the right leadership.
That's right. Follow up?
Yes, sir.
There is a 14% unemployment rate in this city, which is probably closer to 20, right? And a school system that is, while in transition, still failing at least 50% of potential graduates. Isn't that a part of this, and shouldn't that be a part of kind of a crime prevention, violence prevention plan?
Of course, if you look at the plan we announced in October, which is our broad-based comprehensive plan, we address everything. So I've spent most of my career fighting to reform the public school system. I was a school board president. I founded a public charter school called Team Academy. We know if we educate our babies, they're not on the street committing crime. So obviously, we have to reform our school system. We have to make sure our schools are providing great services to our children. We have to reform our workforce development systems that we're training Newarkers for the jobs that exist in the 21st century economy. We know if we put people to work, that's also a way to reduce crime. But today, I'm announcing things we can do right now. Many of these other approaches take a much longer period of time. To reform our school system, that's obviously not an overnight sort of endeavor. To really retrain Newarkers who may have dropped out of school, who may not have all of the skills they need for 21st century jobs, that's a broader workforce development strategy. We have a very empirical, evidence-based, effective plan there as well. But today, I want to announce things that we can do today. We have children who are being shot and killed right now. These parents lost their son on Christmas Day senselessly. The Haley family lost their baby senselessly a few days ago. We have to do some things right now. And so the things I'm announcing right now are not everything. These are things we can do immediately. But obviously we have a broader medium-term and longer-term strategy to deal with the joblessness and to deal with the challenges in our school system.
Other question?
Murders along with carjackings are on the rise in Newark. Is there anything in this plan that will also help stem the rise of carjackings?
Well, absolutely. I mean, everything here will address that. So the investments in proven programs for young people, many of these carjackings are being driven by juveniles. So the more investments we can make in opportunities for our young people, particularly in those gang prevention proven programs like Youth Build, like incentive mentoring, these programs are dramatically effective. So this is not just words, these programs work. At the state level, I was there, we expanded Youth Build, and that helped us to produce those results. We reduced violent crime 3 years in a row. We know we get a kid in a program like Youth Build, they're going to most likely be better off. We can create 200 slots for those kids today. Diverting nonviolent offenders away from the criminal justice system frees up more resources so we can do even more in terms of after-school programming and effective targeted violence-based crime prevention. Hiring more cops who are trained appropriately and effectively to use intelligence in a preventive way, that will affect the carjacking challenge as well. Zero tolerance around guns. Most carjackings happen with guns. So if we can, you're going away for a long period of time, that will pay dividends over time as well.